against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. We're your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, card-breaking news, culture, and matic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, I got my mic fixed. I literally had to go to Guitar City. Shout out to Opti for coming up with that idea, because I was going to wait till Wednesday originally to buy a new Rodecaster Pro 2. And wow, is it complex to set it up, but we got it figured out right on time for the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched daily Bitcoin live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We have a lot to talk about today. Specifically, the ETF inflows are back in full force. We had $235 million worth of inflows just yesterday that we ripped up. I think we went from we were channeling 62K, 63K. We ripped up all the way to I think we hit $71,000. And also, there's a lot of things that have happened since we were previously at these prices, right? So what are those things? We're going to talk about all of them. Massive banks. We have the Wisconsin investment, the pension fund, all have announced that they have exposure to the spot Bitcoin ETF funds. That is absolutely massive. We also have a change in tune on the political front. It seemed, which is awesome, and we've been saying this, is that you cannot beat Bitcoin's incentives on the political front. It seems like we're going to get into this, but it seems like some members of the Democratic Party have seen the light, and they've realized that taking an anti-Bitcoin stance is not necessarily going to win them votes with a key demographic in this coming election in November. So it seems like they've changed tune, and kind of an indication of that is how fast this potential Ethereum ETF is being talked about being approved, right? It's just interesting how that, that conversation changes. Now, obviously, as Bitcoiners, we believe that Ethereum is a security, but you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. I would rather have a government that is pro Bitcoin and pro, has it been past the first 2 minutes? Yes, pro shitcoins, than a government that is just completely hostile towards the industry altogether, and let Bitcoin beat these shitcoins in the open market. And, whether it's Ethereum or any of these other altcoins, as time progresses, it clearly shows that they all lose value towards Bitcoin. So let's, let things fall as they may. But it's just interesting how, they were taking this anti-Bitcoin stance for so long. And then all of a sudden, when they realized that potentially isn't popular with their voter base, and, their, political candidates are using that against them, they kind of do this very quick 180, right? So Opti's going to talk more about that during the culture and also during the numbers as well. Kathy Wood, I didn't see this video. I wish I did, because I would have played it for you guys, because you guys would have enjoyed it. She increased her prediction for 2030 up to, hold on to your seats, $3.8 million. That is absolutely absurd. And of course, this is by the year 2030. And why is she saying all of this? Well, she's saying all of this because she's making the case that if institutional investors, that's the key, were to allocate a little bit more than 5% of their portfolios to Bitcoin, that would add a tremendous amount to the Bitcoin market cap. And that's not unheard of anymore. That's not just bull talk anymore, because of the players that have been announced. And it's not just small little allocations. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars by large, huge, enormous banks. And we're going to get to all of that during the news. So it's incredibly bullish. I mean, I'm not going to lie, for the price for the price aspect of things. Now, from the revolution aspect, that's where you guys come into play, because remember, guys, the revolution is people, individuals taking Bitcoin into self-custody. If enough of us do it, we win, and there's absolutely nothing they could do about it, right? But from the price perspective, incredibly bullish news, and I think that this bull market is just getting started, and I think there's lots to celebrate on the horizon. Anyways, I do want to bring up my legendary co-host, who is always optimistic. Opti coming in with the save, telling me, like, I was like, dude, I ordered something, it's gonna get here on Wednesday. He's like, no, Nico, get your ass in a car, go to Guitar City, because our audience is expecting the best from us. So that's what I did, and I bought myself a new Rodecaster Pro 2, and we've spent like at least an hour trying to figure out the technicalities of it. For anyone who doesn't know, the Opti is the audio genius at Simply Bitcoin, because he has a background in music and all that stuff. I'm more of a video guy, so Opti's been walking me through all of this. Opti, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Life's great. I'm a Bitcoiner. I get to sit back and watch Clown World explode, and we get to stack sats and build a better world. How could we not be just absolutely optimistic and hopeful about the future? This is why we are Bitcoiners. There's, I might go full Nolan on you guys right now, but hey, there is so much there's so much pessimism in the world that just having pure optimism in the face of all this crazy stuff, it's literally a fundamental vibe shift for anyone out there. It's just like, yeah, life's great. You guys are worried about all this crazy stuff, and here we are. Life's wonderful. And on that point, that's what, like Nico said earlier, we're seeing a vibe shift coming out from the political class in regards to Bitcoin or crypto or whatever. And to Nico's point, yeah, of course we don't want to see people get wrecked in shit coins. If an ETF does get approved, it's gonna obviously unload the floodgates for all these other shitcoin ETFs, most likely.
No, I don't think so. I think,
well, we'll see.
I think Ethereum got the pass just because
political connections.
The political connections. I think Ethereum, was able to get away with it. I don't think I don't think the other ones are going to be able to.
Well, we'll see. But to that point, the most thing that I am hyped about if an ETH ETF does get approved is seeing Wall Street get absolutely wrecked out there, and that's going to be absolutely glorious. So, man, it's so good just being a Bitcoin-only Bitcoiner. Shouts out to all the maxis out there. We're winning so hard. This is great. Life's wonderful.
Bro, we're winning epically for sure, and I think we're going to keep on winning. And I'm telling you, bro, like, life just compounds in getting better and getting cheaper if you live on a Bitcoin standard. There's no doubt in that in my mind. Anyways, guys, let's get to the show. But before we do that, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our lead sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Buy Bitcoin with Bitcoin Well. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 US states, and it's the first Bitcoin on-ramp in the US that is self-custody by default. What does that mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody. Future-proof your money. You put in your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, and as soon as the funds clear, you buy it on the platform, and as soon as the funds clear, they go directly to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state, because after all, self-custody is revolution. Go check out their site. It's awesome. It's clean. It's easy to use. All you got to do is go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, sign up, buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada, in the US. There's a transparent 1% spread, which is pretty much the industry standard. It's Bitcoin only, obviously, and most importantly, it's completely non-custodial. Support Bitcoin on-ramps that are non-custodial. Support Bitcoin on-ramps that are self-custody by default, because self-custody is how we win the revolution. Visit bitcoinwell.com/simply to get started today. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. Ladies and gentlemen, we need your help. Help us break 100 likes within the first hour of the show. All you got to do is you got to smash that like button if you're watching us on YouTube, on Rumble, or X. Just smash the like button on YouTube. I think we already have 50 likes. So you guys are enjoying the show so far. Smash that like button. Also, I made your life incredibly easy for a couple of reasons. First, I put the QR code on your screen to take you directly to the Stamp Seed website. And the first reason that I made your life easy is because if you get yourself a Stamp Seed, then you won't have to explain to your grandchildren why you lost your generational wealth because you decided to write your seed words on paper. Don't put yourself in that position. That's a horrible situation that you're going to have. Don't let your future generations down because you didn't stamp your seed on titanium. So do it right now, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off stampseed.com. All right, everybody. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 70,000 flat. Sats per dollar, $1,420. 1,429 sats per dollar. Block height, 844,453. Blocks to halving, 205,547. Halving estimate March 22nd, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,645 Bitcoin. Capacity value, 325 million flat. Realized monetary inflation, 1.65%. The market capitalization of Bitcoin currently sitting pretty at 1.38 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.32%. In the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin is just getting started. All right, everybody. So let's move on to today's news. I mean, today's numbers. This is kind of like a numbers thing. Anyways, I saw this and I can't believe I missed it because this is massive. Like we were talking about, like, look, we don't like to talk about price. Specifically, we don't speculate on this channel like as individuals. We don't do it. We make the case sometimes, and we try to. It's not just bull juice. Like we try to make the case for it. So whenever there's like notable, reputable people that throw these numbers out, I think it's, we like to cover it. So just to kind of give you guys a recap, right? We had Samson Mao, we had Adam Back, we had Jack Dorsey, and Cathie Wood. Now, Cathie Wood, we've covered, her prediction many, many times. We've shown this to you guys so many times. And like, this is a well thought out process. Like, this isn't just like, $5 million per coin, 2030, blah, blah, blah. No, like she lays it out right here, right? She lays out her thought process. We've gone over this chart, her base case, $682,000 per Bitcoin by 2030, her bear case, 258,000. I think we're going to blow past that possibly next year, to be honest. And then her bull case is 1.48 million. You could round that up to 1.5 by 2030. Right. And then she gives the reasoning as to why, like based on the penetration rate of Bitcoin on these different things. So is it digital gold, institutional investment asset, seizure resistant asset, economic settlement network, emerging market currency, nation state treasury, remittance asset, corporate treasury. Okay, you guys get the general gist of it. Well, what I missed, and I wish I talked about this earlier, is that she upped her prediction. And I think she did this at one of Anthony Pompliano's conferences. I believe he held it in New York. And it's kind of updated. So I'll play you guys a portion of the video, and then I'll read you guys a portion of the article. Let's check out what she has to say in regards to her $3.8 million Bitcoin prediction by 2030.
Cryptocurrency. boosted by institutional ETF investments.
Our bull case for Bitcoin was 1.5 million. And many people just summarized it as north of $1 million. If institutional investors were to allocate a little more than 5% of their portfolios to Bitcoin, as we think they will over time, that alone would add $2.3 million to the projection I just gave you.
Wood did not specify.
Okay. So the article goes on to say, the ARK Investment founder and CEO explained her upbeat view at March's Bitcoin Investor Day conference in New York City. We put our bull case for Bitcoin at 1.5 million. If institutional investors were to allocate a little bit more than 5% of their portfolio to Bitcoin, that alone would add 2.3 million to the projection I just gave you. It's an impressive forecast. In 2023, Bitcoin's price skyrocketed by more than 150%, reaching more than 820 billion in market cap. If Wood is right, Bitcoin's market cap could climb to roughly 80 trillion based on the projected supply of 21 million coins. I mean, usually the bull card here is Opti, but again, this isn't just random person on Bitcoin Twitter saying this. This is someone who has the proof of work behind her, obviously has the credentials, has the achievements, right? This is ARK. It has one of the largest Bitcoin ETFs, right? That's a reality, So this isn't, of course, you have to look at someone's incentives, right? She's incentivized to say that because that means that more people would buy the ETF because, obviously buying Bitcoin at $70,200 right now would be a massive discount, if and when the price hits $3.8 million, specifically by 2030, that's around the quarter in terms of potential returns. But here she kind of breaks down her thought process behind this, right? And it's what I said, right? She lays out all the different categories and what the potential penetration rate would have to be in order to reach these really high numbers. But I also want to remind everyone, on yesterday's episode, you had someone else who doesn't have an ETF saying something. I don't want to say saying something similar in the sense that you had Jack Dorsey, who's obviously going full into the the ecosystem. He's a huge investor. He was a massive investor in the Ocean decentralized mining pool, right? He supports Nostr. He's invested in Bitcoin startups. And what did he say? He said something very similar. He said, $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. I would be, and he also said I think it's going to be much more than that. So again, you're seeing a lot of very reputable, notable, respectable people in the community coming up with this $1 million number. And obviously, that would be more than a 10x from here. That would be absolutely insane. Now, how long is that going to take? People are expecting, it's going to be 2030. Someone in the chat, Senor Gringo Papi, says, let's hit 100K first. I don't know. I think, I don't want to say it, but I think the end of the year, there's going to be some fireworks, Opti, in my opinion, bro. What's your case? What's your take on this, bro?
Yeah, well, absolutely love that I'm not the only bull tard here, but Kathy Wood still seems a little bearish to me. But what do I know? I don't have any statistics or numbers here. I just got a feeling, infinity divided by 21 million. I think 2030 is 6 years away. I think that this time does feel different. I think the dynamics of Bitcoin have fundamentally changed. I think the legitimacy of Bitcoin in the eyes of not only high net worth individuals, but just average everyday people has changed. And we're seeing now that some of the biggest institutions in the world do want Bitcoin exposure. So the signal is spreading. We haven't even seen the retail FOMO yet. I do think that we are ramping up for an absolutely incredible 12 to 16 months, or 12 to 18 months now. Historically after the halving is when we get a blow off top. So, I like hearing $1 million predictions on Bitcoin. Of course, who doesn't like hearing some bull sauce on a early Tuesday morning? It absolutely makes you feel incredible. But again, no one really knows where the price is going. All we really know is the fundamental thesis that there's nowhere to store your value. And I'm glad that at least Cathie Wood is starting to ramp up the allocation percentages from these institutions, because we're seeing that 1% isn't going to cut it. And also, we're seeing that these institutions are also kind of falling down the rabbit hole, and they realize, well, hey, if 1% is good, why not 5%? And if they go to 5%, then why not 10%? And anyone in their right mind, once they fully understand what's going on in Bitcoin, they realize that, hey, 10% isn't enough of an allocation into Bitcoin. So these numbers could be absolutely blown out of the water. But hey, an 80x by 2030, is that what she said? You know, we're at $1.38 trillion market cap right now. She's predicting maybe we go to $80 trillion market cap, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. I think sometimes we might get caught up in some bull sauce and we're just speculating on what the price is going to be. But I just fundamentally believe that soon enough, people are going to wake up to the idea that they need to hold Bitcoin. Obviously, we're still in the early phases where they're trying to just get Bitcoin exposure with the ETF. But I think the signal's catching on. And what's that saying that I forget where it comes from, but it's the idea that we overestimate what we can do in 2 years and we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. And I think as Bitcoiners, we still have that PTSD from the last bull run. Like Gringo Poppy said in the chat, you know, let's make 100K first, but 100K is only $30,000 away right now. Like, if you don't think that we can hit that this year, then what are you doing in the chat? We're not doing our job good enough here, because I think 100K, we're definitely going to hit that. In my opinion, that's a no-brainer. Now, the real fun is when we get into price discovery mode, and we'll see how high this can go. You know, everyone's been predicting $1 million by 2025. I've been jokingly saying, let's just cut it in half and we're going to 700,000 this year or next year. And who knows, man? All I know is infinity divided by 21 million. Bitcoin is a superior way to store value. It's 10x improvement on gold. All these things add up to what I think is going to be an absolutely beautiful bull run. We're obviously in the first innings. It's just starting to get frothy. And I don't know if you guys have been hearing the rumors, but now it seems that the Asian markets are starting to wake up. And once they start waking up and we all just start doubling down on our Bitcoin allocations, hey, this could go way higher than we think. It's not necessarily revolving around the US markets, even though we probably have most of the capital in the markets. But hey, once people FOMO into Bitcoin, it's going to get crazy, and I'm here for it. We're on the front lines.
Amen to that, brother. Yeah, dude. I mean, look, it's just sometimes you got to look back. What is this? A bull run? I mean, sometimes you got to look. It's so crazy, bros and gals, bros and gals. Because if you would have if you would have thought about this, you know, a couple of years ago, you know, we're sitting at 69K. You would be like, dude, you'd be euphoric. But the fact that we've all just normalized this, you know, is really, really funny in my opinion. Anyways, before we move on to the news segment, I do want to give an incredibly special shout out to our sponsor. Guys, this is going to be one of the best parties of the year, if not the best party. It's the Pleb Party at Bitcoin Nashville in 2024. It's going to be hosted the day before the largest Bitcoin conference in the world, Thursday, July 25th. It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight, Pleb Party in Nashville, the day before the biggest Bitcoin conference. The confirmed attendees include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, including Nico, Sophie, Opti, Rustin, John, pretty sure, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup. It's going to be hosted at an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910, before the Federal Reserve was established. So this building's legit, with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. Over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs are expected to attend. Last Pleb Party sold out 8 days before the event, and the ticket prices increase over time. So you want to get your tickets now before the prices increase. Currently, there's like 40 tickets left at the current price point of $200. And of course, if you get to the door and you don't have a ticket, they literally won't let you in. This is the party that literally all your friends are going to be at if they're going to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville. So you definitely don't want to miss it. Get your tickets quickly before they're sold out or the prices increase. And of course, I always make it easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, let's move on to the news. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. Hello, everybody. I want to tell you about Passport by Foundation Devices. If you don't take self-custody of your Bitcoin, it's not really your Bitcoin. And Passport makes it incredibly easy to use your cold storage Bitcoin, especially if you pair it up with the Envoy app, which is incredibly easy to use. You literally are spending cold storage Bitcoin. It's easy. It's intuitive. It's the best. So check out Passport by Foundation Devices. You can scan the QR code or check the link in the video description, or you could send a DM to Opti asking him, and he'll be able to hook you up. Anyways, so what is the big news today? Well, this broke this morning. Shout out to Nick Can't Mine, the guru behind the Bitcoin Magazine Twitter account. Just in, Bitcoin ETFs had $235 million in inflows yesterday. Great start of the week. I mean, that clearly explains the run up that we had. Crazy run up. I think it's like a 15% up. Well, we went from 56K where we kind of bottomed, and we ran all the way up to 71K. Yeah, I mean, it feels good. Well, is the bull back? I mean, it might be. I think the party is just getting started. It's probably a good idea to get some just in case it catches on. Anyways, here's a story from Twitter has this like really interesting thing where like they kind of put the news up for you now. Is this AI? I don't know. Anyways, it goes on to say, oh, it is the AI. This is Grok. Wow, that's so interesting. Anyways, Bitcoin ETFs surged past $237 million in inflows. On May 20th, Bitcoin ETFs in the United States experienced significant inflows totaling $237 million, marking the sixth consecutive day of inflows. Notable contributions came from ARK Invest. Who did we just talk about? What did we just talk about? Who did we just talk about? We talked about Cathie Wood. You know who's behind ARK Invest? Cathie Wood. Anyways, and 21 shares. 21 shares ETF, 68.3 million. BlackRock, 66.4 million. Fidelity's 64 million. Bitwise ETF, 24 million. The surge in ETF inflows coincided with Bitcoin's price surpassing 70,000, driven by lower than expected inflation and increased institutional interest. The interesting part here, guys, about the lower than expected inflation is because everyone's just like waiting for Powell to lower the rates, right? And then the money printer go burr again. And then usually what tends to happen when the money printer go burr, not usually what tends to happen, what happens is that asset prices go through the effing roof. So again, everyone's kind of just like waiting for this. Anyways, increased institutional interest. Now that's another buried lead because we're going to get to that. I think that's an understatement. They should literally put an exclamation mark here instead of an effing period, because this is the understatement of the year, because it's a big effing deal what that institutional interest is. So Morgan Stanley, I'm sure you guys have heard of the bank, right? Reveals a $270 million investment in spot Bitcoin ETFs. So let's take a look at some of the other ones, right? Morgan Stanley joins other major banks like JP Morgan, BNP Paribas, and the Royal Bank of Canada, all which have disclosed purchases of spot Bitcoin ETF. It goes on to say there's another one as well. The filings highlight predominant names such as the State of Wisconsin Investment Board, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, and others. So last time Bitcoin kind of peaked, it was like 71K, it like hit these all-time highs. None of those things were true. None of those things were true. The hash rate was lower, right? So it's like you're getting Bitcoin at the same price before any of those things happened, right? So like, you know, it's probably a good idea to get some just in case it catches on, which it clearly is. Here's Luke Michik. She's a great content creator. He goes on to say, most people are downplaying the significance of the fact that 13 of the top 25 hedge funds own Bitcoin. What happens if Bitcoin appreciates by 5x in 2025? Game theory suggests that the other 12 hedge funds without exposure to Bitcoin will have to buy. This feedback loop is going to melt faces, right? So here are some of the largest top 25 hedge funds. Here's Citadel. They own it. They own 771 Bitcoin. Here's Millennial Management. They own 27,263 Bitcoin. There's Mariner Investment Group. They own 437 Bitcoin. Here's Renaissance Tech. They own 84 Bitcoin. Here's Point72 Asset Manager, 1,089 Bitcoin. Here's D.E. Shaw. They own 126. Here's Verentian Fund Management, 89. And it goes on. So, I mean, 13 of the top 25 hedge funds own Bitcoin. So like connect the dots, because again, if you see it, Opti, can you make me full screen, please? Because if it's just these things by themselves, then it's not really that big of a deal. But JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Wisconsin, investment board, pension fund. Thanks, Opti. Here it is. 13 of the top 25 hedge funds own Bitcoin. You have BlackRock backing this. You have Fidelity backing this. Now you have on the political front, which we're going to get to during the culture. Now you have politicians doing basically a 180 because they've realized, okay, maybe this thing's going to wreck us in the election. I mean, like, where do you think this is going? I wish I could pull up pull up little like things here so you guys could see it. But like, it's obvious, right? The institutions are here. This was a narrative that we used to cope back in 2017, and I'm sure Opti remembers this clearly, right? In 2017, when the price, 2017 transition to 2018, it started to dump. One of the coping things that we all told each other was like, the institutions are coming. The institutions are coming. Okay. The institutions are here. They are here. They're here to stay. Bitcoin is a one-way door. Once you get exposed to number go up technology, once you get exposed to Bitcoin's incentives, you tend to not go back, right? So what happens when another public company starts following in Michael Saylor's footsteps? What happens when another nation state starts following in Nayib Bukele's footsteps? I mean, the floodgates are going to open, right? And they are opening. They're in the process of opening. And I'm telling you, if you're just, an everyday person, the days of you being able to even afford, 0.1 or 0.2 Bitcoin are slowly coming to an end. This next cycle, once we break into the six figures, like right now, the price of Bitcoin is higher than the average salary in the United States. Like, I don't think we're going to go back. I just don't think that's going to happen. Right. So, where's Bitcoin going to be in 10 years? I mean, we made the case with Kathy Wood. We pulled it up for you guys. She's even more bullish, but rightly so. I don't think she expected, Wells Fargo, GP. Isn't that Jamie Dimon's bank? Is Jamie Dimon playing both sides here? Look, I have a Saylor has a comment on this.
Well, because they want to sell it eventually, Michael. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the people who are, yes, sure, some people pass it on to their children, but like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit. So
let me say it a different way.
Okay.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor. Okay. Anybody that's rich in the
Yeah, I mean, and then he goes on to say, anyone who's rich in the world,
we call them. Anyone who saves in dollars, we call them poor.
Yeah. Anyways, I think I said enough. I mean, I think I've made my case. I think it's pretty clear. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've all knew this was eventually going to happen. I know that I've been seeing some people on Twitter right now saying like, oh, you know, Bitcoiners were saying like, you can be your own bank. And now they're saying like, yes, we want the banks to buy and hold Bitcoin. And I think anyone that understood this, has done some research, knew that this was inevitable. Even Hal Finney said, I forget what it was, like weeks after Bitcoin was released, that eventually there will be Bitcoin banks, fully reserved Bitcoin banks and fractional reserve Bitcoin banks, until the market realizes why they want to go with the full reserve Bitcoin banks. And also, you know, Bitcoin is a high-powered settlement network. So I think we've all known eventually that this would be the end goal, that on the Bitcoin base layer, at least as where it is today, it would just be high net worth settlement on it, and the money would be built on layers, and we would transact on, you know, layer 2s, layer 3s, or whatever layer it is that eventually gets built that would allow for 8 billion people to transact on it. So I don't think that there is any discrepancy here from what Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time, and we could also give Bitcoiners some leniency in our narratives and our understanding of what Bitcoin is, because over time you learn more and you realize, oh, what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin isn't. And we knew that this would eventually happen. And while you were doing all those numbers, I'm kind of misquoting some, but 13, I think you said, out of the top 25 hedge funds own Bitcoin. You know, we saw the first pension fund start to get some exposure to Bitcoin. We're still only at El Salvador as a nation state that has Bitcoin on their balance sheets. We've seen Michael Saylor do, you know, the MicroStrategy playbook. We're still probably in the early innings of billionaires buying Bitcoin. Like, if you don't think Bitcoin is going to astronomical numbers because everyone is realizing that you can't save in fiat, that treasuries, you don't want to buy government issued debt, I think everyone is waking up to the fundamental problem that Bitcoiners have pointed out a long time ago, is that the problem is the money is broken. The problem is that traditional financial system is designed to rob the average person. Unless you know financial trickery, you cannot get ahead by just saving. You have to go into incredible financial engineering to just save your money. And that's what Bitcoin is fundamentally changing. And corporations and hedge funds and soon enough nation states and all the like, and even banks are going to wake up to the idea that they want to hold some Bitcoin. But going back a little bit, while you were reading those numbers, I'm reminded of the fact that Bitcoin is still smaller than some of the biggest corporations in the world. Like, Bitcoin is still basically a baby in comparison to Apple. And Bitcoin, the technology, is much bigger than any single corporation. So it's only a matter of time until every huge corporation in the world starts to save in some Bitcoin. And once that flood gets unleashed, that's when things really get frothy, and that's when the quote unquote mythical super cycle finally hits, and we start to enter the hyper Bitcoinization, or quote unquote hyper Bitcoinization, because it's happening in real time. But I'm not surprised that these hedge funds are finally getting into Bitcoin. If you study Bitcoin even a little bit, you start to understand that this is high-powered money, and anyone and their mother who wants to not only maintain their wealth, but also increase their purchasing power is going to start to save in Bitcoin. So we're seeing this play out. And I think we've been saying for a long time, and a lot of Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time as well, that once the ETF gets released, we're not going to see this massive floodgate of people getting into Bitcoin. It's going to take a little delay. And now we're starting to see that delay is starting to, that slack is starting to tighten up. And I think by the end of Q2, we're going to see not only the banks kind of dip their toes in it, but we're going to see basically every corporation, every hedge fund, every pension fund out there, every bank out there need to get some Bitcoin exposure. So the next
And then it's going to be too late. And then it's going to be too late, bro.
Yeah, it's going to be too late.
Look, check this out. This is nuts. This is absolutely bonkers. Julian Ferrer. And by the way, a shout out to Apollo Stats. They have incredible graphics and all this stuff. So Bitcoin ETFs bought 3,520 Bitcoin yesterday. The 235 million that we've been talking about. That's 8 times all the Bitcoin mined. That is not enough Bitcoin to sustain 70K. So this is a supply shock, right? There's only so much Bitcoin that is mined every single day. They bought 8 times that amount of Bitcoin that was mined. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, that's why the halvings are, I mean, a lot of people saying like, look, the halvings don't play a big part of this anymore because, you know, the subsidies. So I still believe that they're going to play a huge part. It's just basic supply and demand and then the supply shock. And I think what we're about to, you know, witness or about to experience is if Bitcoin, you know, continues its historical pattern, is another epic supply shock. That's what I think is going to happen. Anyways, I also do want to give an incredible shout out, a very special shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Guys, you want to stack friends who stack sats. You want to build up that Bitcoiner Rolodex because Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people on the face of the planet the next 5 to 10 years. So it's probably a good idea to find local Bitcoiners and events and merchants. Join the 10,485 Bitcoiners that are currently on the Orange Pill app. And of course, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. It will take you directly to the Orange Pill app where you can download the application. It has a very clever filtration system, so you'll only find fellow Bitcoiners on the app. Also, it has this geographical feature. So if you move to a new city, if you're traveling and you don't know any Bitcoiners around you, you could pull up the Orange Pill app. It's a great resource. It will literally tell you what Bitcoiners near you, and you could send them a message. You can DM them. It's one of the best ways to reach me. I would say it is the best way to reach me. So if you want to reach me directly, if you have any questions for me, whatever, you can download the Orange Pill app, send me a message, and I promise I'll get back to you. Anyways, download the Orange Pill app today. Check the link in the video description or scan the QR code on your screen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the culture. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KABOOMRACKS. They are the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You can check out the racks by scanning the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, where you can check out their inventory and connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them. Access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with KABOOMRACKS. Also, they have a special sale going on, and you could scan the QR code and it will take you directly to the page. They're offering instant hosting for an S19K Pro 120 terahashes. There's only a one-time payment of $2,466 plus $160 per month. Your hash rate goes online as soon as your payment is confirmed. The equipment is already online and has been running, so it has a very low chance of DOA. The hosting price is priced at a low rate of 0.079 kilowatt hours. So guys, if you want to start mining instantly, you could check out the special deal that KABOOMRACKS currently has right now. Instant hosting with KABOOMRACKS. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. KABOOMRACKS. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Opti, I mean, we have a hot topic today, bro. I mean,
yeah,
I thought there was gonna be more of a fight, man. I thought there was gonna be more of a fight, but just Bitcoin's incentives just stay completely undefeated, and everyone bows down to the king. So what are we gonna talk about today, homie?
Yeah, man. So we're basically going to talk about the vibe shift that we're seeing from politics, and you guys know that this is very contentious issue, especially here at Simply Bitcoin, but in general. And so I'm gonna go a little saga here. I didn't cover everything that we've seen happen, just more so all the things we've seen come out from the administration against Bitcoin in the last couple of months. So first and foremost, guys, you already know we've been covering this last couple of weeks, but we're gonna start off with the founders of Samurai Wallet getting arrested. And, you know, that hit the airwaves. I think we all kind of got a little black pilled on that one. We're like, man, they're coming after us. Everyone's hunkering down. Then, and a couple days later, we saw, Roger Ver get arrested for tax evasion, even though he renounced his citizenship. And then something we've been talking about here on the show for a while is that Bitcoin isn't a partisan issue. It's that Bitcoin is for anyone, and it's not left versus right. It is orange versus green. And we've been bringing on Troy Cross a lot on this show. And of course, Elizabeth Warren has been on her anti-crypto army crusade for, a long time at this point. And this is just some context here. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, because the vibe shift is happening in real time. And they're kind of overshooting it at this point. Now they're trying to get in favor from everyone in the quote unquote crypto space. And they're definitely going to hurt some people. So for a while, the SEC was saying, oh, we can't allow a Bitcoin ETF because we got to protect investors. And now they're kind of changing tune and be like, all right, let's just open the floodgates and we'll have an ETH ETF and you guys can get wrecked. Anyways, Troy Cross has kind of been saying this too. He goes, Elizabeth Warren's vengeful obsession with the great orange whale could cost Dems the presidency in a tight race. And we've been covering this for a while. And he continues to go on and goes, the electorate does not share the administration's hatred of self-custody or even custody by banks or of Bitcoin or freedom to transact peer-to-peer. Those are positions of elites in power and not voters. And I even found this article from Mises. I'm not going to read it, but it's what we've been talking about here a long time on the show, is the arrest of the Samurai wallet developers show that the U.S. government hates privacy and freedom. And this is where all the Bitcoiners, where we gather in arms and we go out and we tweet and we meme and we realize that, oh my goodness, they are coming after us. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know it was going to be coming so quickly. Of course, as Bitcoiners, we know the meme. Can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from Bitcoin. And this is why we love Bitcoin. It's because it's the only true decentralized network in the world. It's the only truly decentralized money in the world. It's censorship resistant, 21 million hard cap, all that good stuff. But there was a vibe shift. And of course, it happened when Donald Trump came out and said that he is good with Bitcoin, that he would do whatever he can to make sure that he's not fighting crypto. And ever since that day, and this was May 8th, May 9th, when that news came out, we're starting to see the vibe shift in regard to Bitcoin. It's no longer just becoming a partisan issue. It's no longer just, quote unquote, the Republicans that are pro-Bitcoin and the Democrats being anti-Bitcoin. We're seeing now that the Democrats themselves are starting to abandon ship, and they're realizing, oh my God, we can't find Bitcoin because we might lose this election. And so going on, Pierre Rochard goes, sadly, Biden's DOJ is trying to criminalize the use of Bitcoin, but thankfully there is a bipartisan effort to push back against tyranny. And this was May 12th. And of course, he's talking about Senator Lummis and Rod Wyden letter to the DOJ regarding their recent arguments to expand their interpretation of what constitutes a money transmission business. And going forward, shouts out to Pierre Rochard. He's like one of the reasons why I'm here in the first place. And he goes, it's not an exaggeration. Biden's DOJ is trying to criminalize peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactions and self-custody. Unhinged authoritarianism. And we saw last week that, some Democrats definitely were in favor of the SAB 121. But going further, Liz Warren and Joe Biden made Bitcoin, or in this tweet, crypto, a political issue and not the crypto community. Radical policies aim to ban or severely cripple an industry that enshrines American constitutional values into the global financial system will lead to backlash. And we're seeing that backlash. Again, here's the letter of the DOJ threatening to criminalize Bitcoin. And then I wanted to add this one in here because we saw last week Oklahoma passed his landmark bill to protect Bitcoin rights. So we're seeing that it's not a monolith in DC against Bitcoin. But the real vibe shift happened when this came out. And here's Saylor. We mentioned this last week. Wall Street wants Bitcoin, the House of Representatives wants Bitcoin, and now the Senate wants Bitcoin. And of course, over here on No BS, U.S. Senate votes to kill SEC Bitcoin accounting policy in a historical vote, which I believe had 12 Democrats sign on with it as well. But we still saw that the Tornado Cash developer, this is in the Netherlands, of course, this isn't in the U.S., got found guilty for quote-unquote laundering $1.2 billion of crypto. So we're still seeing that there is some governments, there is some politicians out there that are fighting Bitcoin. And there's been a lot of great threads. Here's Nick Carter, which is basically emphasizing what we've been saying on the show for a long time. Here's why the Democrats making the anti-crypto agenda is a bad political move. You guys can find this on Twitter. But this paragraph here. It goes, why are the Dems making crypto a wedge issue, even if it's to their detriment? Why is Biden threatening to veto a relatively uncontroversial SAB 121 overturn? To me, it seems like the mainland Dems are simply enthralled to the Warren wing of the party. Her appointees and proteges control much of the financial regulatory apparatus, as far as I can tell, and the more radical progressives seem in control of financial policy. And that's why we got such crazed outcomes like the SEC being obsessed with climate, or the FDIC trying to nuke every bank that serves crypto or fintech. I believe the progressives are also significantly underestimating the level of popular support for crypto in the US and will not reverse course until it's too late. Well, we're seeing that now they are trying to course correct, because as Pierre Rochard says here, of course, he's kind of trolling, but I think he's also being very serious. You know, we got Elizabeth Warren here. Elizabeth Warren is building an anti-crypto army, and Pierre Rochard goes, historians will look back on this as the worst campaign ad ever. Well, now we're seeing this happen in real time. And of course, follow the dates. May 19th, we have Ryan Selkis. He goes, Liz Warren's anti-crypto crusade has been extremely costly for Democrats. They should be irate at her bad faith engagement with the crypto industry. It will cost them the Senate, likely the White House, but it might not cost them the House if Fit 21 passes by 200 plus votes. So catching up to what we saw yesterday, and of course, we are Simply Bitcoin. We do not encourage you to get any exposure to any shitcoin, especially Ethereum, the mother of all shitcoins. But we are seeing some recent developments here, and I think this is where the vibe shift is happening. Again, we covered all of last year. You know, Gary Gensler used to teach a class on Bitcoin and blockchain at MIT. Then he gets in a position of power at SEC, and then he's anti-Bitcoin, trying to hold back the Bitcoin ETF for as long as possible. And now, as we see this vibe shift, we're seeing that maybe they're going to overshoot this a little bit. And now for a while, we're covering that they're actually, we didn't even cover this because it seemed like noise and it didn't seem like it would ever happen, because anyone that knows ETH is a security in regards to the Howey test. But this came out from Eric, I butcher your last name, Balkanis, senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg. And he goes, update, Jason Seifert and I are increasing our odds of spot Ethereum ETF approval at 75%, up from 25%. Hearing chatter this afternoon that SEC could be doing a 180 on this increasingly political issue. So now everyone's scrambling like us. Everyone else assumed that this would be denied. And he goes, see Nate's tweet below. And he goes, SEC's decision deadline this week on spot ETH ETFs. So moving forward, we have Jake Shervinsky, sorry, bro. And he goes, if the spot ETF is approved, it would be a true shock to everyone I know in DC who's close to this process. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It means approval could signal a major shift in U.S. crypto policy after the SAB 121 vote, perhaps more important than the ETH ETF itself. And then this morning, guys, we saw this happen as well. And shouts out to Nick Carter. I think he's on point here. And you guys can say what you want about Nick Carter, but I think he's on point here. And he goes, the resignation of Choke Point Marty was bigger news than the ETH ETF. And here's why. So going into this tweet thread a little bit, what's this guy's name? Martin Gruenberg was basically the guy who turned the SEC agency against, we'll use Bitcoin, but he says crypto. And then moving forward, not only that, but he was the main guy behind Operation Choke Point 2.0. So now, and he just got fired. So now we're going to move on. Yeah, Nico, I do have it here. I just have to change the screen real quick. I have Pomp's newsletter that he dropped this morning, and he is also saying very similar things that we've been saying on Simply Bitcoin. And it's the idea that what we've been saying for a while, Bitcoin isn't a partisan issue. It's not left versus right. It is orange versus green. It is a CBDC versus Bitcoin. It is slavery versus freedom. And now we're seeing an absolute vibe shift, maybe overshooting the vibe shift at this point, to allow an ETH ETF, because now they've realized that, wow, Trump is most likely going to win this election because of his pro-Bitcoin or pro-crypto stance. And I think they fully underestimated the impact of a pro-Bitcoin or
in this case, maybe because they don't know, pro-crypto policies. And they've been attacking us for a long time now. And you saw that they clamped down on the Samurai devs. They clamped down on Roger Ver. And you're seeing that they've been posturing for, banning self-custody of your Bitcoin, calling it unhosted wallets. And after the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs, you saw them posturing in this idea of, oh, you guys can own the ETF. You guys can own captured Bitcoin. But if you hold Bitcoin yourself, that is a problem. And we got to stop this. We got to protect the investors. Well, now we're seeing they're changing their tune a little bit. And yeah, maybe they're going to overshoot a little bit on this one and get Wall Street and probably some retail investors absolutely wrecked by unleashing an ETH ETF, even though it doesn't seem like there is institutional demand for an ETH ETF. It seems like the odds are changing a little bit. So it goes to show that they are changing their tune. And really, it's what I like to say here all the time. And of course, I'm kind of trolling, but it's our meme world and everyone else is living in it. And they're starting to realize that Bitcoiners are the one that hold all the power. So reading Pomp's newsletter here goes, it felt like the tide is turning, but there was still a very long way to go. At lunch yesterday, I shared with my friend that it felt like the Biden administration could not continue their abrasive stance towards the industry. Trump's recent embracing of Bitcoin and crypto meant that Democrats were backed into a corner. If they continue to be abrasive to crypto, they risk losing a very large percentage of a key demographic during the election. I had no idea how important Democrats thought the crypto issue has become, though. It appears in the last 48 hours, a decision was made. No one knows who made it, but someone in a position of power and influence has decided that the Democratic Party could not cede the crypto issue to Trump for the 2024 election. There will be no pro versus anti-crypto candidate showdown in November. You are watching both political parties actively position themselves to compete for votes from Bitcoin and crypto holders. It took only 15 years for the industry to go from creation to shaping campaign policies. The ground shifted this week, and the world will never be the same. And here we are, guys. This is something we've been covering for a while. I know we get a lot of flack here because we try to stay as neutral as possible because Bitcoin is for anyone. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Bitcoin is for anyone. It's not left versus right. It is freedom versus slavery. It is orange versus green. And for a while there, last month or so, I was having a lot of conversations, and even Nico and I had these conversations. We've been trolling for a while that like, oh, I guess we got to leave America and go to El Salvador. I got on the phone with a lot of friends, and the Samurai Dev arrest was one of those like vibe shift. It got a little dark for like a week. And now we're seeing that they understand what we understand, and they can't ostracize Bitcoiners because this isn't a partisan issue. Like, Bitcoin is for anyone. Bitcoin literally has the best of both sides of the aisle. If you are for the prosperity of planet Earth, of humanity, then you are a Bitcoiner. If you love property rights, then you are a Bitcoiner. If you are concerned about, corporations like the OG Occupy Wall Street movement, then you're probably pro-Bitcoin because you are able to ensure you have purchasing power. And now we're finally seeing that shift. The vibe has shifted now, and they're realizing, and I'm sure we'll cover this more, the Democrats have realized that they can't attack Bitcoiners. And because now, if Trump comes out as pro-Bitcoin and the Republicans win that Bitcoin vote, then things can fundamentally shift in this very tight elections. We are into the election season, and I think for a while there, they thought that, hey, we got to clamp down on Bitcoin because of the elections. And now they're changing their tune. And yeah, if they do allow an ETF, of course, we're Bitcoiners only. We love free markets. Hey, you guys can buy what you want, but we know what we're buying. We're buying Bitcoin directly. But like my boy Nolan always says, I'm at this point, I think I'm going full accelerationist here on Nico, and I really do want them to approve this ETH ETF so that Wall Street goes balls deep into the ETH ETF. They get absolutely wrecked, quote unquote, all the smart money in the world, or at least on Wall Street, buys the ETH ETF, they get rug pulled, they get wrecked, and you start to realize that the smartest people in the room aren't much smarter than you. And hey, if this ETH ETF does get approved, then I think that is a fundamental vibe shift. Maybe we're as Opti, I forget what your name is today, but my boy that trolls me every single day in the chat. Maybe we are entering in the full max degen phase right now, and they're just trying to get all political favor at this point. But one thing stands for sure. there is a vibe shift happening, and now Bitcoin fundamentally isn't a partisan issue coming out of DC. Now they're realizing they have to embrace Bitcoin, because not only does Bitcoin embrace the American values here, but these attacks on Bitcoin are really basically attacks on your liberty, your freedom. And now they're realizing this is not a politically viable situation. Yeah, I like that, Jose. Bitcoin brings us all together. And hey, I know Bitcoin eventually makes politics, what's the word I'm playing? Irrelevant. But in the meantime, we're seeing that politics does have an effect on your life, and now they're embracing Bitcoin. So fundamentally, a vibe shift is happening right now, guys. I don't care what side of the aisle you are. It's not left versus right. It is orange versus green. It is Bitcoin versus freedom. But we're seeing that now they have to embrace Bitcoin, which goes to show everything that we've been saying here for a long time, guys. He who owns the Bitcoin makes the rules. And man, it feels so good winning. It feels so great winning. Anyways, Nico, jump in, add some more context to this, because I know this is right up your alley, bro.
Dude, first of all, you did an incredible job covering all of that. It's a very complex topic. And I just want to pull up a comment, because here we go. SpongeBob SquarePants, stablecoins are becoming one of the largest buyers of treasuries. They have no choice. We're going to cover that, by the way, because it's very, very interesting, and a lot of people are not aware. But yes, specifically Tether is becoming one of the largest treasury buyers in the world, right? Which is actually good for U.S. politicians, which is just interesting how all that works. Anyways, to kind of add to Opti's point, I think he did a very good job thoroughly covering every single angle. But I gotta say is that, like, this happened a lot sooner than we all anticipated. We all anticipated there was going to be a big fight, but it kind of reminds me of when the Wall Street Journal dropped a bogus article making the claim that Hamas was using Bitcoin to launder money. Within a week or two, there was so much pushback on Bitcoin Twitter and just the Bitcoin community that Tom Emmer, which is a member of the House of Representatives, got the head of FinCEN to admit in congressional testimony that terrorists prefer using the traditional financial system over Bitcoin. Just completely debunking the article and completely debunking that angle of attack from Elizabeth Warren. I think what happened when they started locking us in a box, okay, is that they really awoken the beast. Look, I gotta say, we have never taken a stance ever on this show. But it got us to the point, and we're not the only ones to feel this way at Simply Bitcoin. But you see the vitriol coming out of the community. You have David Bailey saying that he's going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars against Biden's opponent. Against the people running against Biden. You saw very, very notable members of the community just stand up and say, "Wait a second, I don't even care that I dislike Trump or RFK Jr. I'm going to vote for them because they're going after us." And I think that they awoken a sleeping giant, and now they're trying to walk it back. That is what is happening right now. They really poked a bear. They had no idea how many people felt so passionately about this. But I don't think they could walk it back. I think they made their bed. I think that the faction of that party that is controlled by Elizabeth Warren is very powerful. Are they going to be able to really backtrack the way they're signaling to, which is why I think that pomp email from this morning was so important. Are they going to do that? Is it too little, too late? Either ways, this is great news, because this tells me that Bitcoin is you cannot attack it politically. And that is a positive thing. That's what we've always said on this channel. It's not left versus right. It's the party of fiat, the party of green versus the party of orange, a party of Bitcoin, peace, prosperity, opportunity. And that's really the battle at hand. And it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, left-leaning or right-leaning, liberal versus conservative. It really just depends. Like, do you support Bitcoin or do you not support? Are you anti-Bitcoin? And what has happened was that they stirred up a hornet's nest, no pun intended, and that hornet's nest got really effing angry, and they didn't realize how strong of a support, especially with the huge demographic that they're relying on. And now they're kind of trapped in a corner. Pomp said it perfectly. They're trapped in a corner. Like, what are they going to do? Right? Are they going to are they going to continue moving forward this CBDC BS? Or are they going to get, are they going to get thrown out of office through the, through the electoral process? Right? What are they going to do? They're kind of trapped in a corner here. And I love, Opti, that you pulled up that tweet by Pierre Richard. Like, that is the most, regardless of whatever political party you stand on, or whatever your ideology, taking an anti-Bitcoin stance in a democratic system is the excuse my language, ladies and gentlemen, is the dumbest shit that you could ever think of. Like, that is stupid. Why would, in what world is that a good thing? In what world is that a good thing? And you know what the tragedy of Elizabeth Warren is that she was one of the main supporters of the Occupy Wall Street movement. What happened? Well, I know what happened. The big banks just started giving her money, and all of a sudden it's not about Occupy Wall Street. It's about protect the banks at all cost. And, let's roll out this central bank digital currency so that the US government could retain the privilege of creating money for free that everyone else has to work for, but it's crazy because every single time, this industry or this sector has been attacked, we've won the fight. And every single time we win the fight, we get a little bit more confident, and we were like, whoa, wait a second. You can lock some of us in prison, but you're never going to take my freedom. You're never going to force me to use a money that steals from me. I'm not going back to your slavery system. I'm not going back to using fiat. I want to be able to earn and save in a money that doesn't steal from me. Full stop, period. Right? And they underestimate how much of us feel this way. They underestimate how much our ranks are growing by the day. And that is why they're going to fundamentally lose. We're never going back to a political money system. That system is slowly dying. And I think, guys, at the rate at which Bitcoin is being accelerated by very powerful and wealthy institutions, I would even say that political money system is dead within the next 10 to 15 years.
Oh, that's a big prediction.
It's happening very fast, Opti. It's just happening so fast. Bro, listen, man. You have Wells Fargo and JP Morgan that are going to start benefiting from number go up. How long until they break ranks? How long until Michael Saylor said it the other day? What happens when 10,000 companies are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet? What happens when they start to realize, wait a second, like, why am I holding treasuries? Like, why am I holding fiat? Like, this makes no sense. That 1% allocation is going to turn into 3% allocation, is going to turn into a 5% allocation, it's going to turn into a 10% allocation. Bitcoin is the superior asset. And unfortunately for the political class, that have been abusing the privilege that we bestowed to them as citizens, the party's over. And I think that's fundamentally where the Biden administration was coming from. And that's fundamentally where Elizabeth Warren was coming from. But I think that they underestimated how passionate and how popular Bitcoin, and to be frank, guys, like, because we got to be honest here, how popular the Bitcoin industry and the crypto industry is in the United States. And for Bitcoiners that are cheering, like saying like, oh man, like Bitcoin is like, no. Listen, Bitcoin is going to win on the free and open market. I don't want government to intervene and get to decide, oh, you know what? Like, everything else is a security. Now Bitcoin, no. Let Bitcoin win by itself. It doesn't need help. It has superior incentives. Ethereum will collapse on its own. You don't have to. That's such a good quote from my wife. Shout out Internet Sophie, my beautiful wife. Lol, imagine selling your soul for Monopoly money. I might steal that. for a tweet, because that's a great one. Anyways, bro, that's what I gotta say about
Wait,
this.
Nico, can I jump in a little bit here, because I actually like this conversation. One thing I'm going to troll. First comment.
Like this conversation? Do you
I do.
I do. Sometimes not like the conversation.
I'm gonna pivot a little bit. It's what we say here constantly on the show. But first and foremost, I gotta troll Elizabeth Warren out a little bit. I really hope that Elizabeth Warren completely pivots and embraces the ETH ETFs next. Like, that would be the funniest thing. Like, what's that meme? You know, whatever's the most hilarious outcome.
Yeah.
Whatever's the most hilarious outcome is the real outcome. Like, that would be the funniest thing I ever seen in my life. Is she just fully pivots and is like, all right, you know, I know it's anti-crypto, but you guys should be releasing this ETH ETF next. Think of the investors. Okay, but that'd be so funny. Okay, the reason I like this conversation today, Nico, is because what do we say here on the show constantly? This is an information war, and we have the truth on our side. And Bitcoin has this very peculiar knack of exposing people's incentives. And now we're realizing, of course, they're politicians. Of course, they have to gain favor of the voting population out there. And now they realize, oh my God, we can't find Bitcoin, or we can't fight Bitcoin. Sorry. But what this, I think, further proves is the theme we've been talking about on this show for a long time, is that what is happening is information. What do you say? Information, narrative, trench warfare on the battlefield of the internet. And we're seeing that the lies and the gaslighting that are coming out from the quote unquote official institutions don't have the weight that they used to have. Now they realize, like, oh my God, if we lie blatantly to people, the people aren't going to listen to us like wholesale. And now they're realizing, wait, we actually have to kind of talk about the numbers. We actually have to give people the truth, because they aren't buying our lies anymore. And I think that might be the biggest signal here, is that they had to completely 180, vibe shift on their whole anti-Bitcoin stances, because people out there are like, look, I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of you guys attacking my liberties, attacking my rights here. And their lies, it's like Star Wars, like, you have no power here, or whatever the meme is. Like, I forget what it is. Like, that's what we're seeing right now. And the information is spreading enough. The information is decentralized enough around planet Earth, where they're realizing, wait, like, why are you attacking Bitcoin? It's like, first of all, remember when they used to say Bitcoin is nothing, it's backed by air, it has no value. And then they came out and they started fighting Bitcoin because, it's a national security risk. And, we got to ban custodying of your Bitcoin. Like, we can't allow the ETF because it's going to hurt investors. And then Bitcoin has the best ETF launch ever. We're seeing that if you fight Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, you can't keep this going. We see one president or two presidential candidates embrace Bitcoin, and they're like, oh my God, we got to completely abandon this. This is the information warfare happening in real time, and they can't fight the truth anymore. And I think that's the real silver lining here. Like, the truth wants to be set free. The consciousness of planet Earth is starting to raise, and to realize that all the institutions are fake. They've been lying to us forever. The CPI numbers are manipulated, and people want truth. People want something solid. People want a good money. And now we're seeing that, hey, Nico and I were saying that probably 2028 is the year when Bitcoin becomes like the political issue. Well, it happened before even the 2024 election. It dropped in like 3 months.
Literally. But it was like, oh, bro, we were preparing for it. We're like, oh my God, this is going to be like mainstream, like whatever. And they concede within a week or two, because they realize, like, this is politically unviable. And I was saying that. I was like, look, by 2028, this is going to be politically unviable to take a anti-Bitcoin stance. It happened a lot sooner than that. All these things are happening a lot sooner. I never would have thought JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and, the Wisconsin investment, what is it? Pension, what is it, Opti?
Wisconsin Pension Fund. I forget what the name is.
I would have never thought in a million effing years that any of these, funds or banks would want exposure to Bitcoin. And what's crazy is that when they start feeling the benefits of end number go up technology, literally the dam's going to break, because you're going to be, if you're a CEO of a public company or a bank or something like that, it's like, do you think it's a coincidence that the Vanguard CEO stepped down a month after he went on TV and say, we're not going to take we're not going to allow a Bitcoin thing. Like it's just like the incentives are going to take care of themselves. And I think right now, this is another testament of Bitcoin's incentives that they're superior. They're unbeatable. Bitcoin has been attacked in so many different ways by the most powerful nation states in the world, including, the CCP, elements of the US government, undefeated, literally undefeated. The memers on the internet are just like, whatever. So look, but in all seriousness, the samurai guys, did you see that theory, by the way? Did you see that theory?
Which theory?
There was I'm not going to bring it up because I don't have all the context and information, but anyways, okay. Free samurai guys, Bitcoin privacy developers should not be in prison. So Julian Assange, which we didn't have time to cover that today, we'll cover on tomorrow's show. Should, Ross Ulbricht, all those guys, they need to be free, right? Freedom of speech is important. Just because you write code doesn't mean you should be put in a box. And I think we will be able to free them as Bitcoiners gain more and more influence, gain more and more power, and we will, mark my words. I hope we have a Bitcoiner in the White House, not a shitcoiner. That would suck. Mark my words, we're gonna have a Bitcoiner in the White House in our lifetimes, and I think that's when all these guys are gonna get pardons and stuff. So. Because it's a very, very important aspect of, Bitcoin and what this represents, what this movement represents. Anyways,
Bitcoin is American pie or apple pie.
There we go. And it's exporting those American ethos of individual freedom, prosperity, the pursuit of happiness worldwide. Via the internet. Anyways, guys, we love you all. That was Tuesday, May 21st episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. If you guys enjoyed the show, smash the like button. Smash it right now. There's 1,096 of you guys watching between YouTube and YouTube and X, and there's another 70 of you guys watching us on Rumble. So if you guys really enjoyed the show, you guys value our content, it really helps if you leave a comment. If you smash the like button, really helps with the algos, helps push this message, this content forward. Share this with your friends and family. Get the message out there. Stop the divisiveness. Bring people together. Oh, shout out to the super chat, by the way. Lawrence Forbes, appreciate it. Thank you for the $2 Canadian. All paradigm shift gradually, then suddenly. Appreciate it, bro. Anyways, guys, we love you all. I'm your host, Nico. This is my co-host, Optimus Fields. We're Simply Bitcoin Live, and we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode. Peace out, everybody.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.